But football without fans is not. You play a football match without fans, you've got nothing. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
Into Johnston. Johnson. And a ball by Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in. Henrik Larsson. That is sensational. Nakamura. He has done it. Is it not just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won. Champions, that's who we are.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. It's a full house for us. We've got Bhoys, we've got Paddy, and we've got McGinty. McGinty, you have returned from your hibernation. How are you doing?
Not too bad, guys. As always, great to come back on when I do. It's just a shame that it's sporadic due to work nature, but here we are. Another Tuesday TikTok, lads.
And before I move on, that is a lovely top Barcelona. Sometime in the mid-90s. Tell me more about it.
I'm actually not 100% sure which year. I get all three of the Capital ones confused.
Surely wore that.
It's a Ronaldo shirt. Well, it's not got Ronaldo on it, but it's as of his era. 92 to 95, I want to say, but I could be wrong. I've got them all, though. If there's no that one, I'll find that one next week.
He's got them all, Jordan. James, how you doing, mate? Last spoke to you on Sunday after the game. How's tricks?
All good, mate. All good. Just working away, but all good.
Who's on in the background, mate?
It is Hibs youth team of some level. They're playing Borussia Dortmund at Easter Road, and they've actually got a decent wee crowd. It actually genuinely looks as if they've got made in that big new stand that they've got in the day in Mace League games. It must be 7,000 or 8,000 that's there.
Impressive. I no longer hold Borussia Dortmund in the esteem that I used to hold them after a season or so ago. Patrick, how are you doing, mate? I love your moustache.
Oh, I'm absolutely fabulous, Gavin. I must say, get rid of that shite. No, do you know what? See, when I was heading to work this morning, I've only recently kind of put my Spotify back on, rejoined up my account, and listened to music and that the way to work. But this morning I was like, oh God, I forgot the Jungle Gyms are on Spotify. Shameless plug. But yes, what I was going to say was, it sounds good, but visually, when we're doing this, it's different from what you hear on Spotify. So two of the listeners, two of the guys in the comment section will try and actually speak your comments so as the guys that listen on Spotify can hear kind of what we're laughing at and what we're talking about and blah, blah, blah. More interaction, all that jazz. But yes, I am swell, Gavin. Thank you very much for asking. Polite voice because I want to sound perfection.
Excellent.
Nobody sees you twirling your moustache on Spotify.
Correct, James. You're absolutely spot on, sir.
Yeah. To the viewers, hope you're all doing well. A warm welcome to all you
Cut!
guys.
To all the listeners on Spotify, Andy the Baldry Fucker has asked me to politely say the word cunt.
Aye. So last time we were on, we covered the game against St Johnstone on Sunday, a 4-1 win to the Hoops. And I guess another Tuesday is rolling around, and we're just going to talk about all things Celtic related, rumours, news, bullshit, the wheat from the chaff, all things related. I wanted to actually talk about Kyogo to start off tonight. Ooh. I know that a lot of people might be thinking Ange, but we will certainly get to Ange. That is unignorable. I wanted to speak about Kyogo because I have actually been critical of the guy a little bit this season. However, it's worth pointing out that the guy has now got 19 goals in the league, and that's in 23 appearances. That's not necessarily 23 starts, but just 23 appearances. So I'll reiterate that 19 goals in 23. Now, the goal conversion, I found the stat on the BBC website, and it looks like they've expanded their stats, but I might get a few people excited, such as McGinty. No XG, however, his goal conversion in the league, 39%. That is impressive. And with a shot accuracy of 57%. Who would you think, out of everybody else in the league, has a better goal conversion than Kyogo?
There's no Shankland or something like that. It's got quite a good ratio.
No, it'd be Nisbet, actually. Surprisingly, Nisbet. His stats look very impressive, although he's only got about 8 goals. Anyway, my criticism of Kyogo a few weeks back was that he needs the ball to be played to his feet in order to score, or more accurately, he needs it on a plate. And although to an extent I still kind of stick by that, I think it's unignorable to kind of point out how impressive the guy has been. So I wanted to ask you guys, Paddy, might start with yourself. Can he get any better than what we're seeing right now?
Kyogo.
The very man.
I certainly hope so, Gavin. Anyway, enough of the Sunday boys. He's obviously important to the team, mate, and I think if he could become a wee bit more clinical, that would obviously be ideal. But he's, with the fact that he's not as clinical as he would. We were actually talking about this the other day, weren't we? You know, strikers and who's the kind of best players since Larson, this type of chat. I think one of the couple of guys that I said the most clinical that I've seen at Celtic since Larson was Robbie Keane and Gary Hooper. Now, I wouldn't say that Kyogo's as clinical as the two guys, but the guy's still scoring important goals. You know, 19 goals already, as you say. So, I mean, I suppose on one hand you could say that as clinical, but you know what it's like when you're actually watching him. It does miss kind of easy chances and then scores crackers. Sorry, I've totally just diverted off that question there. Can I get better? What age is he now? 27, 28? I think.
Probably, I think.
27, 28. There's scope there. You generally peak around about 29, don't you, for a striker? So, hopefully we get the best years out of him.
James, as we said, 19 and 23 in the league. As a Celtic striker, we do have high standards. What's the minimum that you would expect for a Celtic striker in the league?
If you're talking goal scoring striker, you're probably, if they're managed to stay fit for a full season, you're probably hoping for at least 20, probably 25 or higher. 20, 25 if they stay fit for the full season. But just what you're saying there about King Kyogo got better, I think, would you still, I know he's scoring goals again, no a slight on him, but could you still make a case to say that his all-round play maybe was better last season? Would that be talking nonsense?
In what way?
Just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to, like last season I felt as if, I suppose it's the way we play as a team, it felt as if he was, I know he still plays on the shoulder, but a lot of his goals are kind of cutbacks, whereas last year it felt as if it was through balls and he was running in behind the defenders, if that makes sense. It feels as if the way we've changed as a team has maybe changed a wee, play as a team has maybe changed a wee bit.
I get you. I think his most visually impressive goals were the 2 goals against Hibs in the cup final, roughly about this time last year, and also the one where he fired in from outside the box against Dundee United. One thing that I think that we don't make enough use out of with Kyogo's movement is, as you said, we cut it in from the wings. We don't play enough through balls to Kyogo. Whenever you watch him in person, when you look at his movement, he seems to be thinking ahead of our defenders who are kind of meandering around with the ball in possession. He's making movement, expecting the ball to be released in an instant, whereas the defenders or the midfield who've got the ball may not possess that kind of that skill in order to play a through ball through the eye of a needle. Paddy, we've spoken about it as well. You would love to see Celtic maybe attack more through the middle, kind of like almost like an Arsene Wenger type Arsenal back in their heyday as well. But the style that we've got right now works very well for Kyogo. As long as he's in the right position in the box, then you know that he's going to get chances. I know that he misses a few, but he does put the majority of them away. McGinty, is there any kind of room for improvement that you can see from Kyogo?
I think with every player at Celtic's level, there's always room for improvement because as a club and as a squad, we always want to see those small improvements, which is definitely in Kyogo's game. There is room to improve, but that is no slight on the lad because he's absolutely phenomenal. I've struggled to understand what the criticism really was of him, although the last few games, the last 10, 11 games, has shown that the criticism, maybe not unfair and unjust, but was a bit too sudden. I mean, I think it's 11 goals since the return since the World Cup, which is absolutely sensational. I saw on Twitter the other day as well people talking about if we had the same points for goals scored as the likes of England and Germany and Spain and stuff do, which is like 2 points per goal, then Kyogo, as it stands, I think would actually be in with a serious shout at the Golden Boot for this year, just on domestic league goals of itself. However, with it being only 1.5 in Scotland, I think we would have to, much like Larson, get into the silly realms of goals scored. But to touch on what we asked James, how many goals in a season do we consider would be like a really good strike rate for us? I would say with James, yeah, 25. I know he's kind of hovering at 20, 25, but I would say 25, and you've got a sensational season or a sensational player. And if he's sitting on 19 just now in the league, he's going to hit that magical 25, no problem. Which, weirdly enough, is not actually that common nowadays. We used to be used to 20, 25 goals quite often. You know, if you went back to the kind of 2002, 2003 era, maybe we were spoiled by Larson and Hartson and stuff, but nowadays it's not that common. But if you can go 20 plus, you have to take note of a striker that can do that. It is an absolute phenomenal achievement. And if he's on 19 right now, you know, of course he can get better, but we'll do well to hold on to him.
And just on that note, I've literally just had a notification on my phone. It's on the Celtic News Now app, and it's a Celtic Quick News article. And it's actually John Kennedy speaking about Kyogo. And he says, 28-year-old, obviously we were talking about his age, he's a very humble guy, and I think he appreciates what the fans offer the team. He takes a great lift from that, scoring in front of the crowd. You can see him straight away. The first thing he does is go straight over to the crowd. At the end of the games, he's usually the one up front leading the party, but he's not like that at all. He goes around the training ground. He's very quiet. Out on a training pitch, he works ever so hard, like the rest of them do, and just gets on with his business. That's testament to the type of character he has. It's great to see these type of guys getting the rewards because we see how much he does behind the scenes. The fans see him on match day, out there performing, scoring the goals, and he makes it look so easy. But he puts a lot of work in behind the scenes to make that happen. So basically, the headline of that is Kyogo secret revealed, and John Kennedy says it's down to Furuhashi's hard work.
I completely agree. And you can see last season, I think he was just a breath of fresh air compared to the likes of Edouard beforehand, which is no slight on Edouard either because he's an absolute phenomenal player. But he's a different kind of player. And I think when we saw the change, we're like, is this going to work out? Is this going to do what we need? We don't have that big front guy sort of thing. And we didn't need it with him because he can read the lines so well. Unfortunately, he got called offside so many times last season. It was unbelievable, especially considering it was wrong how many times he got called offside. But you can read that line fantastic. But the best times from Kyogo, it looks easy when you've got Jota and Abada running down the wings, or Maeda in the latest few games, and Maeda's on fire as well just now. But when they're all driving forward and they're cutting it across the face of goal and stuff like that, that's where Kyogo is just there waiting. But it's not just pure luck or kind of poaching instinct. He's reading that game so well. He's reading that line phenomenally well. You know, playing with guys like Iniesta for a couple of seasons is going to teach you how to read a game properly and know when to make that run when the pass is about to come out. And he does it so well. His work rate is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
As Jamie Young mentioned there, you're talking about Iniesta. He played with Iniesta. He must miss his through balls. Frank Brennan says...
Him, but he gets plenty of balls into the box from anyway.
Frank Brennan says, we forget half-fit Kyogo won Ange's first trophy in the December, and it was not until the April, for goodness sake, until he next actually started a game for us, and it's only now he's at full fitness.
Was it that long? Aye. Christ. And of course, that was when Giakoumakis kind of came into the fore. and he became a serious competitor to that kind of number 9 jersey. Aye, but of course, one of the main yardsticks for a Celtic striker is going to be how they do in Europe. So that's the other thing that he has to kind of focus on for next season anyway. Another thing kind of worth mentioning is now that with the departure of Giakoumakis, there's a lot of pressure now on Kyogo to keep this up. We're going to depend on him between now and the end of the season. I know we've brought in the new guy, just always kind of feels odd whenever you say that, Mr. O, Johnny O, what you call him. People will give him a bit of latitude, but with Kyogo, a lot of pressure on him to maintain that form and not to get injured. If we do get injured, then that wouldn't be something I would relish the prospect of. Anyway, guys, let's address what we've been reading about, what all the other Celtic podcasters are no doubt discussing, and even you see it in the comment section. So the recurring rumours linking Ange to vacancies in the EPL. First off, I want to say before we actually get into it and I hear your thoughts, I think it's actually quite ignorant to assume that the only pathway for Ange to fulfil his ambition is solely going to be in England. The world is his oyster, and the stock is very high. Who wants to kind of start us off? We've been hearing teams like Man City today, Liverpool, Leeds, maybe even Wolves as well. People have been linked with him. It seems that every club who has a vacancy now, Ange is up there, and whether that be poor journalism, lazy journalism, maybe there's something to it because the stock is very high, or maybe some people like to think that there's something malicious involved, that people are trying to destabilise a club. James, what do you think of the rumours?
I can't see it happening, to be honest. The Man City thing, I think, is pie in the sky. I don't think for a second that Man City's supporters would swally that at all. I think you could. I mean, we've seen what Rodgers done here, and obviously it was Leicester that came calling for him at the time. Maybe a better kind of opportunity in terms of moving forward, but obviously it's in the long run it's went tits up. But I can't see him going to Leeds. I actually seen. I think it was on the BBC website the day, and it was a list of potential options for them. And a lot of the Leeds supporters, Ange didn't get a mention, but they seem to fancy Rafa Benitez, Thomas Tuchel, and Pochettino. Thomas Tuchel and Pochettino would get easily. They'd probably be more in the running for Man City than Leeds. I don't see them touching Leeds, and Rafa Benitez is well past his sell-by date. So if he was to leave to one of the kind of maybe bigger teams in England, I'd probably maybe go for a Liverpool or a Spurs if that was to come, but I don't see it, to be honest with you. As you say, they seem to look kind of down their nose regardless of how well you do up here, so I don't really see it happening in the short term anyway.
Paddy, we would all hate to see Postecoglou go, but whenever these rumours do crop up, what is your feeling?
First of all, there's a fear there, because even though, we're obviously Celtic supporters and we think that Celtic's the creme de la creme, some people can be very much swayed by the Premiership down in England with the money or the focus on it or everything that comes with it. Do I think Postecoglou would go now? I don't think so. I don't think he would be the man, excuse me, that would leave halfway through a season. I think he's got far too much integrity, far too much strong will that he wants to stay here and complete his task to an extent. In the summer could potentially be different, depending on the backing that he gets. We've seen that so many times with Celtic managers. They don't get backed enough, and then as soon as England flashes its financial flaps, they go running. That's just the way it is. But listen, if and when he goes, he'll go, I think, with everybody's best wishes. But again, be absolutely gutted. But you look at the rumours, and it's Leeds today. Obviously, there's rumours that Guardiola may be leaving Man City because of recent issues and news. So the only thing there that could coincide with that is the Ange's links to the City group, who are obviously part of Man City and whatnot. Then there's talk about Liverpool, but that's obviously two clubs that have still got a manager there now. But Leeds currently don't have a manager, so that's That's a team that's been mentioned. But again, I was listening to TalkSport this morning, and the first one that was asked was Ali McCoist. And to his credit, he was asked the question: could Ange Postecoglou say no to Leeds? Could they say no to English football? And Ali McCoist's first word was, "Of course I can say no." He says because he's at a great club, he's doing a great job, he's building something special, and he pretty much said the exact same thing, that, he doesn't think that the guy's got that kind of character that he would jump at the first chance. And the other one as well was Simon Jordan. Simon Jordan actually spoke very, very well about Ange as well. And just to kind of paraphrase it, it was basically, we saw what happened when Steven Gerrard jumped ship at the first goal, and basically how much a cunt he made of the job. And Ange is in a position where he's not comfortable, but he's doing what Ange wants to do. He's building something. He's currently winning. He's won titles. He's on course to win more titles. He's getting into Europe. So there's certain factors there that even now, certain people down in England are starting to say, well, do you know what? It's not just a case of you're in the Mickey Mouse League of Scotland. No, you're the manager of Celtic. You're not automatically going to just say, right, okay, pack my bags, I'll be down the road in 10 minutes.
Aye, I couldn't agree more with you. McGinty, I wanted to kind of continue on with talking about Postecoglou, unless there's anything specific that you've got point of view-wise on the rumours. I was going to ask you more about Ange's legacy whenever eventually he does leave. We will, of course, part ways at one point or another. We hope that it will be on good terms after mission completed, whatever mission completed will be in some people's eyes. But how do you think Ange's legacy will be judged whenever we do part ways? Do you think that domestic dominance is enough, or even stylish domestic dominance is enough, such as what Brendan Rodgers did? Or do you think that his exploits in Europe will be how he's judged against his peers, whether that elevates him or if it's going to be used as a point of contention?
Well, first off, I wouldn't use stylish domestic dominance to describe what Brendan Rodgers did at Celtic. I think Brendan Rodgers was a fantastic manager at Celtic. How he left obviously leaves a bit of taste in everybody's mouths, but it was never stylish how he played football at Celtic. It was possession-based football, physical possession-based football. What we see now with Ange is stylish. It's what Celtic fans crave every season and have done, and we've been starved of it for the better part of 30 years almost at times. And for me, Ange, he could leave at the end of this season and he will go down as a guy up there with Wim Janssen, a guy who came in and gave Celtic fans their club back, gave us the football that we deserve back. But that's not enough to leave as a true legend. He'll go down as a cult hero, but no as a true legend. And I don't think that's what Ange is here for. He's not here to come in and be a little cult hero, sell a couple of jumpers and move on out. He's here to do exactly what he needs to do, and that is better himself and prove himself in European football. And he's only halfway through that job. He's had one crack at the Champions League. He knows that he's came up short. That's just understandable. That's where we are at as a club, and that's not a slight either. But he'll want to have a fair shot at that yet again next season. And I think after next season, if he puts in a good performance, you very well could see him leave after next season. And if he leaves after next season, after putting in a good performance in European football for Celtic, is saying that's where you deserve to be, Celtic. I've laid down the groundwork. I've laid down the foundation. On you go yourselves. You would then leave Celtic as a legend, as somebody who gave us all a club back and gave us back good quality attacking football. But not until then will Ange himself, I think, be happy and content with what he's doing here. I don't see him leaving before that. Unless, of course, you get halfway through next season and the unfortunate happens with our board, as has done previously, and let's not dwell on it too much, but we need to back him. We all know as fans what Ange is here to do. Ange has been honest and open from day dot what he's here to do. We back this guy, he will deliver. So let's do it as a club. Let's get back on track from where we should have been 25 years ago now.
And there's a good question for Frank again. The one huge problem when football managerial vacancies do occur, they're usually never at the best and most suitable time for the person concerned. And so if they say no now, will they ever be asked again? I think that's a very good point, that, because obviously Ange's stock is high. That's clear as clear can be. But if when Celtic's next Champions League campaign comes up, and that should be next season, we're on course for that. If he has an even better Champions League than what he's did this season, his stock will be higher. So if there is an intention there to leave at some point, I think he would be as well waiting, because he's 50. I think he's 58 now. He's traipsed his kids halfway across the world to come to Scotland. I think he's the kind of guy that would put his family first instead of just up and sticks to now, because he's only moved to Scotland. I know obviously England's kind of just down the road, but it's still a few hours away. But I think he would have that in the back of his mind, as well as wanting to complete the job that he's put into place. And I think the shelf life on the Ange Postecoglou reign at Celtic has got at least 3 years in it, at the very, very least.
Right. Like you say, a lot of it does come down to the board as well. Obviously, we get burned with Rodgers, and benefit of hindsight, obviously we all bought into what he said as well. Now, I've still got a wee bit of PTSD for that, I think, so I'll take any words, I'll take with a pinch of salt. When it comes down to it, if the board, obviously we've seen it with Rodgers, they backed him to a point, and then obviously done to death. John McGinn, James Justin, was it Panucci, the other fullback, and there was a couple other players, that Castagna. There was players that we just wouldn't push over the line to strengthen that wee bit further. And obviously still absolutely no excuse for leaving when he did. They should have absolutely stayed and seen the season through. But a lot of it will fall on the board. Because even just to think, I know obviously what we're saying about Jobs being available and they're not always going to be there. If Rodgers had waited that 6-month period and then left and went to a club down south, I think even to this day, I'd imagine most people would be on Rodgers' side, because benefit of hindsight, we can see the players that we were linked with and that we couldn't get on the line. Putting all the shit that he spouted about Danny McGrain and all that nonsense to one side, just looking at it in terms of football, I think the board will play a massive role in how long he stays here.
I agree with some of the comments here that whenever a managerial vacancy does occur, a lot of times it doesn't suit the timing of the managerial candidate, that he's given the option even to move, or we'll never ask again. And I agree with what Frank Brennan was saying. I think that kind of summed up the situation with Rodgers, coupled with the fact that he wasn't being backed by the Celtic board as well. I think Ange, though, he kind of holds a lot of the cards right now, and he seems very, very self-assured. A lot of people would level a criticism at Brendan Rodgers that he was more, I know that people would definitely use the word snake-like, if he was in a, I won't go there, but more snake-like, more ambitious. People say that he chased the money. I wouldn't say so much that. The guy's got enough money in the bank as it is. He wanted to get back into the fold, back into the EPL fold, because for a lot of people, they can't see beyond that. And I would level that criticism at Rodgers. For Ange, I don't think he's of that mindset. I think he sees the broader picture. And I wouldn't be surprised if you look at the people that Dortmund go for, some of the German teams, but I will choose Dortmund. I wouldn't be surprised if they went for Postecoglou. I wouldn't be surprised for that. And I'm not trying to kind of think of scenarios when he'll leave. I'm just saying that he doesn't have to go to England. He could go anywhere. Sorry, James.
Well, Borussia Dortmund, I was just going to say, are actually currently 1-0 down to Hibs, so I think that rules Dortmund out. That's a bit of a come down for him now. I'm just thinking as well there, sorry to just go off subject. Remember that Steve Keane? It was a Blackburn manager?
The chicken man.
That's Hibs' youth team manager. Just seen it there. I didn't know that. It's a bit of a come down for him.
Do you remember whenever he took over Blackburn, the amount of criticism that he got? I forget who he replaced, but he got a ton of criticism. It looked horrible, absolutely horrible. And he eventually did get sacked. I think is he a Celtic fan, Steve Keane?
Yes.
I think so, aye.
Anyway, Paddy, I did ask a question to McGinty. I'm not too sure if he actually answered it. Well,
I don't know, but he's ran away.
He's he's fled. Will Ange be judged by his European exploits at Celtic?
I think 100% yes, he will be. Sorry, had to jump out quickly just to check.
That was like a ventriloquist dummy there, wasn't it? You know, put my hand up.
What does Ange need to do?
You want to do what? I think he doesn't need to. I mean, obviously, if he goes on and wins the UEFA Cup or the Europa League, whatever it's called now, then that's just groundbreaking. That's phenomenal work. That's beyond our wildest dreams, almost. But we're in the Champions League. Hopefully, I think all he needs to do is put in a good performance. It comes with 3 or 4 wins, and that's sensational. Come third by putting in a good performance and having European football after Christmas sets us up as a club again, as a club that can be taken somewhat seriously. I think that I don't think anything other than at least that can be deemed a success. If you crash out in 4th place again, then he's not done enough in Europe. And at that point, after year 3, it comes down to, will the board and the club give Ange what he needs to continue the progression, in which case he will stay for the 4th year and go forward. Or if he feels like managers before, Brendan Rodgers, Neil Lennon's first stint, if he feels like the board are strangling him and not going to give him the resources to continue to push on, then at that point we're going to lose him. And for the wrong reasons.
So you think third in the Champions League group stage?
Third in the Champions League group stage with good performances and some decent results would be a good season Champions League wise. Getting 2nd place would be sensational, but I think you could be happy and say if Ange gets Celtic 3rd place with a couple of good victories and some good performances, like we did have good performances this season, but we didn't have the victories. So if you can add a couple of victories in there, get us 3rd place, I think he could leave Celtic after season 3 and say to himself, I've laid it all there for you. It's ready, oven baked, as they say, you know. Yeah.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and someone disagree with me and explain why. So if you hold up Gordon Strachan and Neil Lennon, they got Celtic into the last 16 of the Champions League, playing their style of football. Whether you liked it or not, it got us to that stage. Now, for Ange, with all his beautiful football philosophy, if he doesn't get us to the last 16, then it's a fair comparison, isn't it?
No,
I don't think
not
so.
For me. Sorry, James. Not for me.
Go
Football landscape is completely different now from 15, 20 years ago. No, not as far as 20 years ago, but definitely it's a different landscape. But 15 years ago, when Gordon Strachan was getting to the last 16 twice, completely different landscape. Completely. I think you need to take that into a massive consideration when you figure where Celtic are as a football club. Not where we think we should be in the Champions League. We have to be realistic. We're not quarterfinalists of the Champions League. Getting to the last 16 would be a magnificent achievement at this stage. As for Ange himself, he's here to prove that his football can work in the Champions League. He's not going to be under any illusions that Celtic can go ahead and beat Man City, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Sevilla on a regular basis. And, you know, if that was your last 16 quarterfinal, semi-final, final, that would be an extremely tough run. Ange is not here thinking he's going to make that run. He's here to say, I can prove that my game works in European football. And he will do that by getting us, yes, into the last 16, but also by proving that in the group stage you can do well and get into the 3rd place knockdown. He's not going to be under any illusions. Celtic aren't. We're not that club. We're not going to be that club for the foreseeable future, but we can be a club that can be taken seriously in the Champions League.
I would love to see that. I still think it's a good question. Last question on Postecoglou. Paddy, how does Postecoglou guard against complacency in the third year of his tenure. So talking about next year, we saw under Brendan Rodgers, things got stale. And that was way before he actually moved to Leicester. How does Postecoglou guard against that? Because it is, complacency is a part of human nature. You're top dog 3 years on the trot, which we expect next season. Some players might take their eye off the ball. How does Postecoglou prevent that?
I think he's got to look at himself first and foremost, and obviously looking at the team in that. But he's got to be, continually trying to improve himself and trying to keep up that momentum, which I don't have any doubt. Excuse me, I don't have any doubt that he'll be able to show the attributes. But again, you look at the team; it's about improving the team. It's about potentially changing the style a wee bit, because I think if you continue to play the same style over and over and over again, then teams get wise to you. The likes of Jota, if Jota's dribbling past one guy, teams will end up putting two guys on him, type of things like that. But you look at the things that Postecoglou's come up against. We'll just talk domestically for talking's sake. He struggled against teams that like St Mirren and Livingston particularly. That was at a time when there was a bit of a hoodoo, or it was called a hoodoo. We struggled to beat Davy Martindale's Livingstone because they literally just sat back with like 10 men in defence, and we kept trying to put balls in from crosses to Kyogo, who's at 5'7". We changed that up a wee bit after the second game that we dropped points to him. So if he continues to learn and just swap things up a wee bit, just evolve the team and get guys continuing to perform. If people don't want to be here, shut them out, which is happening. It has happened. And people that are performing and are showing that they want to be in this team, they'll break into the team, But again, it's just, he's got to evolve with the team. But I can see it happening because he's putting all the options into place. We've heard about the things, that Ange's plans for a transfer window 2 year ahead kind of thing. That's coming into fruition. We're seeing the positives of that. So hopefully guys that have come in like Kobayashi, he'll come to the front next season. Aye.
One thing that I do like in terms of guarding against complacency is what Alex Ferguson did. With all those years of dominance for Man U, what he did was he alternated as assistant manager to bring in fresh ideas. James, do you think there's any kind of stock to that with Celtic if Postecoglou was to stay for maybe beyond the third year? It might make some Celtic fans happy getting rid of John Kennedy finally, huh? Am I getting him looking at you?
I don't think we'll be seeing the back of him yet.
Aye, I think if he's bringing him in, it'll be his coaches. But I think the only way John Kennedy will leave Celtic is if we fucking force him out the door. But realistically, I think if somebody comes in, maybe a championship team or an SPL team comes in for John Kennedy, I think that's the only way he'll leave. I think he's pretty much got a job for life at Celtic, with it looks at least anyway.
It seems to be that case for many years. That guy's had a job for life, and I don't want to trudge over old ground. We talked about this a year and a half ago when we first started this podcast on the back of that disaster of a season. He didn't deserve to stay in a job at Celtic after that, but he did, and Ange has found a place for him, and we found the John Kennedy of previous years that seemingly some people do make fantastic coaches and absolute shit managers. So we'll see what happens with him, but if he wants to improve his own personal growth and development, he would need to leave Celtic.
Why?
Because he's at the highest place that he's going to get without having to take the manager's job again, which I think we'd all agree he does not deserve and should never get anywhere near again without at least going away somewhere else and gaining that crucial experience of being a manager. He can't go any higher. He's an assistant manager.
No, I can become the manager.
Well, he has before, and he was shit. He should have stayed in a job.
No. Well, obviously that's proven wrong because he did stay in a job and he's doing a good job by all accounts.
Well, that's what I said. as assistant manager and as a coach. He's
but
done the manager thing. He's been good enough.
well, he get 10 games in one of the worst campaigns out. So I'm not by any stretch.
And he didn't make it any better.
I know. I'm not saying that his 10 games in charge was a positive. It wasn't. It was a turgid time. But again, you look at the circumstances that he took over. We were in the shit. I know he gets a lot of flack. I know he gets a lot of flack, but I think it's quite harsh on John Kennedy, because I think time and time again he's shown his worth. And I know you guys have said he's got a job for life. He's not got a job for life, but I think that the guys here won't merit. And I think we need to look at the positives of that and stop jumping on the guy's back. You know what I mean? Because
that's what I'm saying, though, Paddy. On merit as a coach, some people are fantastic coaches, and some people just can't translate that to actually being the top man. For me, I know it was only 10 games, but I think he proved at that time that he's not got the experience or the know-how to step it up. So yes, he's a fantastic coach. We've seen that under Rodgers before. We've seen that under Dialer, even singing his praises, and we now see it again under Ange. He has a job for life, unless he somehow drastically screws that up, which I can't see him doing, because he does seem to be a very good coach. So he's at his glass ceiling at Celtic, unless he goes away and gets that managerial experience elsewhere, and then maybe one day comes back as a manager having bettered himself. So for his own growth and development, he needs to go somewhere else, because he doesn't. It sounds harsh, but he doesn't deserve a second chance at it.
Okay. We got that comment. So, Paddy, you pointed out we were guilty of not reading out some of the comments. And Gorilla in Manila, I like your name. That's harsh as fuck, wanting Kennedy away. The guy's been part of some massive success for Celtic. He's gained a hell of a lot of experience under the managers he worked with. This was a topic about John Kennedy that me, Paddy, and McGinty argued about whenever Celtic were doing shite under Lennon, and we spoke about the merits of John Kennedy as a potential manager, maybe not with Celtic, or maybe with Celtic after some redemption. I think McGinty was of the opinion that John Kennedy proved that it wasn't good enough. Although when I listened to you there, you're saying at that time he proved at that moment he wasn't good enough, but you're kind of leaving a wee crack of light to say that he might be able to go away, do his thing, show everyone wrong, and then come back. There's always room for redemption. James, me, Paddy, and McGinty, we know our opinions of John Kennedy. I was kind of trying to defend him. I thought it was a tough season. I don't think many people could have turned that around. What's your opinion of John Kennedy with his future at Celtic? Does he have a glass ceiling, which he's occupying right now, or can he go one step further?
I don't know. See, to be honest, I was at one point, obviously, during that season, I was the same as McGinty. I wanted everybody away, Lennon, Lobel, fucking Jerry McCulloch, the guy who was in Hoopie's costume. I wanted everybody out the door that season.
That used to be our mate, by the way.
Oh, well, no, he can stay then.
No, come on now. That's an exclusive. Tell us more.
No, but without telling too much, because insider knowledge. One of our mates from school used to work at Celtic Park, and he done a lot of good jobs in there. And every so often he'd fill out as the guy under the mask of Hippie.
So you're telling me that's not actually a dog?
No comment.
My dreams have been crushed.
Aye, that the guy that used to do it was my cousin as well. Aye, that was my Scott.
Fuck off, you!
It's not Scott that we know.
No, I think that joke.
To be honest,
John Kennedy out. No, during that season, John Kennedy, I wanted him out the door. As I say, genuinely, I wanted everybody out the door that season. I think now that the dust has settled on it, and I think if not everybody, the vast majority of people have come out and gave him praise. I know Big Ire came out and gave him a kind of glowing report. I think there's obviously been a few more. So for the time being, I'm happy enough. But when it goes tits up, I'll get in his back because that's the way I go whatever way the wind's blowing with him.
Fair enough. An honest opinion. By the way, thinking about it, the gorilla in Manila. Someone did ask, "Do you get gorillas in the Philippines?" And it is a valid question. So if you can, gorilla in Manila, if you could please expand on your name, I think we're all quite curious now. Boys on tour. Once Lennon left, all the coaching staff should have went, and when Ange got the job, should have been allowed to bring his own team. Well, the fact is, Ange wasn't insisting upon bringing his own team. I don't think that's actually his style, unless, of course, you wanted him to bring Kevin Muscat. Be careful what you wish for.
Ange actually has already alluded to that, and he says that wherever he goes, to whatever team that he goes to, he basically prefers to walk in the door alone and work with the people that's already there. Now, obviously, he will possibly potentially bring in one or two guys at some time, or people, I should say, in this day and age. But he did say that's his kind of mantra, is that he likes to go into a club and revitalise a club wherever he goes. So when he went to Japan, you see him working with a lot of Japanese staff. But in Australia, Australians, blah, blah, blah. Celtics came here on his Todd. And for me, he's done a great job. But again, for me, you need to look at the staff as well there. I don't think it's a case of just Ange has walked in and he's Mr. Wonderful and everything's down to Ange. Clearly, isn't he? Clearly, the back staff, the backroom staff are doing a good job under Ange. I've heard stories about Kennedy as well with Ange, and the two of them are as thick as thieves apparently. And Ange absolutely rates him very, very highly. So I'm not going to back against that. And I've heard the same about him with Gavin Strachan as well. So
Can't ignore this one. From Baldy.
Andy.
John Kennedy could eat a 12-inch baguette in the shower and it wouldn't get wet. Paddy, thoughts on that?
None. Not an image I want to fucking my mind.
Right, Paddy. Another Tuesday, and another week to reflect upon. Whether it be players, pundits, referees.
Hold on, Gav. Ida
Gucci is leaving on loan to go to. It's like fuck you, Oka. That's the name of that Japanese team, isn't it? Fuck you, Oka.
Yeah, I've put it in the banner at the bottom. It's nearly there. It's coming. Hurry up. Avispa Fukuoka. That's how I'm going to pronounce it.
Paddy, this is taking fucking.
There it's there. Look. And the banner.
I'm still in match Celtic versus St Mirren.
Yosuke Ideguchi joins J-League side Avispa Fukuoka on a year's loan deal.
Yeah, that's it. I would imagine that a lot of people have got sympathy for how it worked out for him, but I would imagine a lot of people would agree that whenever we did get glimpses of what he was like on the field, he never had it. I
think Woods' comment here basically pretty much sums it up. Alan Woods, Ideguchi away on loan. Bye. End of.
Aye, we wish him all the best, but sadly nobody really cares. He never made an impact. McGinney, Ideguchi. Yeah.
You said it all there, Gav. Glimpses of him, you had high hopes. He never really done anything to wow us. Injury prone. I think he had the same issues before when he played in was it in Spain he played? And he had injury issues / didn't he settle? He looks like one of those guys. Out on loan he goes. Maybe he gets over his injuries. Maybe he comes back and he's all right for us. But I've no high hopes, and I don't think the manager does. We've just signed Iwata. We have another 5 midfielders. Yeah, you can't win them all.
I think I think he comes with an air of mystique about him because obviously it was a shame that he got the bad injury at Alloa. When he was getting it was his first start. I think it was his first start, and he got a terrible injury. Jim Conlon says it there. That horrible tackle on Adiguchi Alwa paid to a Celtic career. Ange obviously thought he was a player. I would imagine Ange did think that he was a player, or else he wouldn't have signed him. And I think it's a shame that we never got to see the best of him. But he leaves on a year's loan, and I'm just imagining he won't be back at Celtic. But I still don't really know much about the guy. I don't know what his position is. I don't know what his forte is as a midfielder. It's a shame another guy's not been able to make an impact, but these things happen. It's happened through time. It's happened to better than he. It's happened to worse than he. It's just part and parcel of football. Some players don't suit. Some players don't gel. Some players don't settle, and they leave and they go on. So hopefully he goes on and has a successful career if he's not going to come back to Celtic permanently. We wish him all the best, but we move on.
Very diplomatically put. Paddy, talking about reflecting of the past week, who is your ball bag of the week?
Oh, is this the new segment?
New segment.
There we are. So it's on the screen just under my finger. New featurette. We are going to do the hero and the zero of the week, or as we're going to call it, the baller of the week and the ball bag of the week. My ball bag of the week. I'm going to have to apologise to the Celtic Supporters podcast, and particularly Hoggy, because this was mentioned last night on it. But I'm going to include two testicles in this ball bag, and it's going to be Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara, pair of pricks.
What did they say?
It's basically their anti-Celtic attitude at all times. And it's run about it's revolving the topic of Postecoglou going to England, and it's these two guys sum up the general, snobbery of English football and how people portray our club and our league and our importance to the footballing world, if you want to call that Celtic. But nah, they're just a pair of fucking absolute tadgers. Get it up them. They are the ball bags of the week for me.
And James, over to yourself. Baller of the week.
Baller of the week. Aaron Moy. Move on.
Aaron Moy. over Andrew Considine.
Well, we can have two. We can have two balls in our ball bag as well. Then there we go.
Yes.
That's very, very anatomically correct, James. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about Aaron Moy. Obviously, we praised them. We praised them on Sunday. But actually talking about the inclusion of somebody in your squad who's of that kind of vintage. Like, don't get us wrong, he was only about 31 years of age whenever we did sign him. And distracted by Padfoot there. But I wanted to ask you, is it quite important to have players of that age in a squad, whether they're first team starters or not? It kind of makes me think back to Gordon Strachan. He was very prone to doing it. He signed so many people of a certain age because I think that he was of the opinion that you can't get enough experience in your team. Frank Brennan, Jason Cundy is and always will be a Cundy. End of. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I was trying to visually point to answer Willie Larson's question there. I missed the first two ball bags. Who were they? Willie, Jason Cundy, as quite rightly pointed out by Frank, is one of them, and the other one is his compatriot on TalkSport, Jamie O'Hara.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
Not a problem. I was just going to make the point about the importance of having people of a certain vintage in your squad for the experience, whether it be in the dressing room or on the park. And that's what Aaron Moy has been bringing. Certainly an unfashionable signing. But I think a lot of people are warming to him. I was thinking about Gordon Strachan. He was definitely one of the most prone people for signing for signing people with experience. Mark O'Neill, whereas he would sign people in their prime. But Gordon Strachan, as soon as he came in, he was signing people like Paul Telfer. I don't think Postecoglou had enough people of that kind of ilk in the squad, and I think it's obviously a good thing that we've got someone like Aaron Moy and the fruits are coming to fruition. McGinty, do you think it's important that a manager can recognise that when there's a lack of balance in the squad in terms of experience and they act upon that?
I think most managers would try and do that to some degree. When you look at what Ange inherited at Celtic, losing Aya, Edward, Christie, they were all, I know Christie was still there and whatnot, but they were all on the way out the door. He had a massive, massive rebuild. Did we not have something like 12 or 13 first-team players on the books at the time?
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive rebuild that he had. The most experienced member of the playing staff that he probably had was Callum McGregor at the time, who he made captain. And I think guys like James McCarthy, absolutely zero offence meant to him. I think guys like him, Ange happily accepts because he recognises you need that experience. You need the older head, somebody who's been there and done it, sort of thing. But it doesn't always work out. So then he goes and gets Aaron Moy, somebody who he has worked with before at the international stage, as somebody who has played also in the Scottish League. Not saying obviously James McCarthy had because he did. But it's proving it's worth now. The experience and older head he's stepping into old and doing what we hoped he would have done at the start of the season, but he's definitely bringing it now into the second half of this season. I think every manager worth their salt can recognise that. You can't. It's the dream to win big tournaments with 25 guys in your squad who are all under the age of 25 and all live within 30 miles of your stadium. That's poetic. But every manager worth the salt can realise that you need a bit of experience. You need an older head. Just look at Xavi in Barcelona. Realised that he was, Barcelona were in the shits for the last few years. But last season he brings in older heads like Dani Alves again, just to settle it. Doesn't bring Dani Alves in to be the wall beater and take the club up a level. He brings Dani Alves in just to say, look, at the back you are absolutely shoddy, but we need something to settle it all. Paul McFarlane, did you see Alistair Johnson and Lenny Scottish watching still game? I don't doubt that for a second.
He put I think it was an Instagram story up or something. McGinty, I know you're a big lover of it, Instagram. Okay. But he's took a photo of his TV and it's he's got still game on Netflix and he's put up the caption, learning Scottish. So good.
Did he have the subtitles on though?
You need to ask him.
I imagine he's got subtitles on.
Did you have them on?
Gav doesn't even know how to use this, let alone social media.
Ooh, get you.
Sorry.
I'm a bit of a technophobe, yes, I will admit. Right, Paddy, I know that you want to talk about this one. There was comments by Postecoglou, and it looked to be at the same time praising Callum McGregor and also a little catty swipe at some other people. Let's see if we can go back to it. Let me just find this on the WhatsApp. I can read it out. Okay, so he was talking about Callum McGregor. I don't know exactly what the question was by the reporter, but you can probably understand roughly what it was. And Postecoglou's response was, I think a lot of it is down to Callum McGregor himself. With a lot of these things, it's often the players themselves who push their representatives to look for opportunities. I'm sure Callum will have had opportunities. In fact, I'm definite on that. But the fact is, you don't hear about it, and that's testament to his character and also the people around him. Other players in his position would probably advertise the fact that they've knocked back this club and that club, and they're not interested in going here or there. But that's not who he is. That's not his character. So I wouldn't take the fact that he doesn't get talked about like there hasn't been any interest. And I can guarantee that there would have been from the highest level for Callum, but he's really proud of the fact that he loves this football club. He loves his role as captain, and he really wants to make his mark here. It's a credit to him that he continues to do so. So at the same time, praising him, but also, as I said, making a bit of a swipe at players who maybe can't control their agents, or perhaps using their agents as puppets to engineer these moves, which then creates a speculation. So, Paddy, what did you think of that?
Well, first and foremost, I think I think it's going to have to be unanimous that based on those comments for Ange that Callum McGregor's going to have to be the baller of the week. Yes, I would probably read into that the same as you, mate, that's maybe a couple of wee catty comments there. If we were going to suggest anything, it's maybe aimed at Giakoumakis, some of the rumours that we've heard and some of the curious speculation regarding his move. But no, listen, it's fantastic words, and it's great to hear some insight about the captain of the club, one of the longest serving players at the club, somebody who's so influential. And we're seeing now, that the manager's telling us how happy he is to be here. And despite the fact that there's been interest from everywhere, from other places, that he doesn't want to go anywhere. So that's music to my ears, mate. And I would love Ange to be on the same train as that thought for himself. Keep him here, keep CalMac here, build the team with these two guys at the forefront here, and I will be a happy chappy.
James, whenever you get speculation about players, surely it's not in all instances that it's the player's fault. Sometimes it can just be because you're doing very well. You can't help but get noticed by other teams, and hence the media rumours arise. It can't always be blamed, but I do agree with Paddy that in that particular comment of Postecoglou, it's most likely directed at Giakoumakis or Giakoumakis.
Aye, definitely. For the comment as well, I know he's talking about McGregor, but I would probably throw James Forrest into that as well. Because, I mean, in all the time that they've been here, there was talk of Brendan Rodgers signing McGregor when he went to Leicester. But James Forrest as well, I think the only time he's ever actually been rumoured away was to go to Spurs. I think it must have been Harry Redknapp it was there at that point. So I would lump him in the same kind of category. He deserves a bit of praise for it as well. What he's saying, I take for it the same as yourself, is what we're saying about Giakoumakis, and I think a lot of it's to do with the cryptic kind of Instagram rubbish, the wee egg sand time or whatever. I can't go all that stuff. See, even the kind of generic good 3 points, thanks for your support, I can't go all that stuff either, but I don't know. I just have a kind of blanket ban on social media, I think, if I was a football manager, because it's just no my cup of tea. But I think that's what he's been getting at, obviously, the kind of cryptic post. Because in recent times, well, certainly since Ange just came in with this squad, I think Giakoumakis is the only one that's kind of apparently thrown his toys out the pram. There hasn't really been anything else. Obviously, as we've said before, when he speaks about Juranovic, he speaks about him in glowing terms and how he wishes him the best, but we've not heard that. Well, fucking technically Giakoumakis is still here, but we've not heard that about him. All he said is kind of, the move's ongoing, it will get dealt with. And then I think he had a wee comment at the weekend saying we'll find out at the same time as him on social media. So, there's obviously been a few words said there. And I dare say it's all came through the stupid Instagram post that he puts up.
See, to be honest, in my opinion, it is a storm in a teacup. Like, Giakoumakis made like a wee fucking emoji thing on his Instagram whenever the writing was on the wall, when it looked as if he was going to be leaving. It was probably at a much more advanced stage than what we knew at that point. And he just put that wee egg timer to say that my future will be decided very, very soon. I don't think it was provocative. Maybe I'm being too diplomatic on it. But in terms of what some footballers have done in the past for social media, compared to what Giakoumakis has done, me as a fan, I don't take offence. I agree with you, it's a bit wanky to do that, but there's far worse things that footballers can use social media for to further their own agenda.
100%, but I just think, what is the point? The only reason that he can do that is to cause a reaction. I mean, do you think fucking Ange just sitting on Instagram scrolling going, oh, fuck, he's put an egg timer in his post, I better put him in the team next week? It's not like that, do you know what I mean? So literally the only reason he's done it is to be provocative. There is no positive explanation as to why he's done it. Look, I mean, you look through history, the one that springs to mind was Julian Lescott? Was it mind to get hammered? Was it Lescott? I might have just thrown Lescott under the bus, but mind to get hammered, and then on Twitter he was posting pictures of like fucking Ferraris and all that like 3 years later. I can't actually remember if it was Lescott. I might have just done him a disservice, but throughout history, what has there been positive that has came for stuff like that? I just do not get the point in it. Like, I'm not saying I take offence to it, like you're saying. Like I didn't see it and think, oh, fucking Giakoumakis, but it's just done to get a reaction. It isn't done for anything else. Do you know what I mean? And as I say, like, all the generic good 3 points, fucking thanks for your support. Fair dues. It doesn't really wash with me, but fair enough. But stuff like that, I just don't get the point in it. It just seems totally pointless.
James, I think the one that you can look to most in very, very recent times is Ronaldo.
Really?
Look at the kind of furore that came through that. Obviously, he's used. So we're talking about Giakoumakis using social media as an outlet to kind of put forward his feelings and or his potential feelings and whatnot. You look at Ronaldo. Ronaldo was revered as a hero. Obviously, one of the best of all time, but he's went back to Man United. It's no went very, very well. He then goes out and he's tweets everywhere. He's got press agents releasing stuff, and then he goes on and does that ridiculous, embarrassing interview with that absolute scumbag, Piers Morgan. And then all of a sudden, poof. Don't get me wrong, he used that for his own motive because he wanted to move out of Man United. He knew fine well that would be the final straw. They would have to get rid of him. But it also turned a large section of the support against him. So he's clearly not giving a shit about the fans. He's caring about Cristiano Ronaldo, caring about himself. He wanted to move out of there. And it's fuck you, Man United supporters. Fuck you, board, blah, 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 manager, the whole shebang. And I totally agree with you, mate, on that, because a player can certainly go and approach his manager most of the time. I know there's instances where they can't, but they can go and approach the manager. They can go and chat the door on a Monday morning. If they've not been played on Saturday or Sunday, they're not happy with it, go and chat the door, go and be a man and go and speak to the manager. That's it. Or take your captain in with you, take your players' union rep, who's one of the players in with you, go and have a chat. But pathetic shite put on Instagram or Twitter or fucking TikTok or whatever you use. I don't know, whatever the kids are doing with these days.
But that's it though. I mean, the four of us have all said that we all like Giakoumakis, we all think he should have played more games.
Mm-hmm.
But then stuff like that, it just I don't see that and think, he's right though. I just think, what a dick, why have you done that? Do you know what I mean? It's just totally pointless.
I found it quite harmless. McGinney, if you were a footballer in this day and age, would you have like a blanket ban on all social media, or would you still kind of indulge? How do you balance it?
I'd have a Twitter account if I was a footballer. I don't think I'd bother myself with Instagram or whatnot, but I'd have a Twitter account. Probably do what Neil Lynn does and have an alter ego as, was it Siamese boy or something like that, you know?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, we still don't actually know. Every other week it's like, God damn, that is definitely Neil. Then other times you're like, nah, surely it's no. But I would have probably a spoof account. I think I would definitely be on the message boards as a background lurker, kind of spying on, seeing what people are saying about me. If for no other reason, just to find out if they want rid of me or no, which, knowing how I play football, probably would.
And would you be watching the Jungle Gyms podcast if you were a footballer?
100%. No doubt about it.
Good.
Best podcast there is.
Good. Fucking. You're redeeming yourself after your absence, mate. You're doing well.
By the way, you can get back here on again, mate. You can get back here on again. You can get back on here again, I should say.
Reminds you all you're all here because of me.
Guys.
Thanks for wasting my time.
You're welcome. Nah, not all, man. Not all.
Right, guys, back to the actual football itself. The season, we've got this Saturday, we turn our attention to St Mirren in the Scottish Cup. And I think this is the 5th round. So if we win this game, then we go through to the quarterfinals. What's your expectations for the tournament itself? And basically, will it be a disappointment not to win the treble, James?
Aye. That's pretty much it. And you're never going into a competition, domestic competition, think, we'll take the semi-finals. Nah, you're in it to win it. Every year we don't win the treble, you're lying if you say you're not a wee bit disappointed. In it to win it, get it won.
Have we become a wee bit desensitized to the effort that it takes to actually win a treble? Because not many Celtic managers have done it in our illustrious history, Paddy.
I would certainly say so, especially, and I'm not having a go at anybody specifically here, but I think the kind of younger generation.
Sorry, have a go,
Aye,
mate. I
have a
didn't
go
want
at the
shit.
Wayne. Have a go at the Wayne. No, but I think
Paddy, don't worry. I've looked at the demographics. We're the youngest people who watch this podcast. Everybody else is like 35 over. There is no kids watching this, trust me.
Thank fuck, because I've been swelling like a trooper tonight. No, I think obviously supporters who are of a certain age may have or may have not grown up with known partially success at Celtic. And as you say, Gavin, in recent years we have done the treble. It's a very, very hard thing to do. It's only there's only less than a handful of managers have done it. So if it was that easy, it would be done virtually year in, year out. But
if it was that easy, you'd do it 4 times in a row, wouldn't
you? Absolutely. But no, you're right, James. Every single year that you don't win a tournament, you're gutted, you're raging, you're flummoxed at some of the decisions that stopped it from happening, this and that. But it's obviously a very, very hard thing to do. So, but as long as you go into the mindset that you want to win it, and if you don't, then we'll fucking have a rant on the post-match reactions.
Aye, that's it. The league's the bread and butter. Anything else is a bonus, but you're never going to get into it no to win it.
And I'm just going to bring this up. 2 ends of the spectrum here. John Coletta has given his age away, and he says he's 60. And forever and ever, my niece, who is 19, tunes in every week. She puts me onto this podcast. Thank you very much.
Well, pleased to hear.
Forever and ever's niece is one of the few exceptional ones there. However, that means that forever and ever must be about 40 at least. So, kind of both sides of the spectrum there.
Or if he's for Drum Chapel, he's 26.
Aye, would that make him a granddad? Well, he's a grand-uncle.
I'm going to ask a wee question to Stephen Kelly here, because Paddy, whenever you were kind of politely berating young James here for the trebles, and obviously me, you, and McGinty, we know that the pain of the 90s, we remember that well. But Stephen Kelly alludes to the 80s. I wanted to ask a question, not so much about the pain of the 90s and the pain of the 80s, but in terms of the competition of Scottish football, how would you feel about but how would you feel about if Scottish football was to devolve, evolve one way or another, where there was more competition? Because back in the 80s, you had a strong Aberdeen, you had a strong Dundee United, and obviously you had Celtic and the old Rangers. How would you feel about going from a 2-horse race to having more competition? A wee question, but back to you guys, the podcasters, in terms of this weekend. It is a cup competition. However, February is a very, very quiet month. We've only got St Mirren. The following weekend, we've got Aberdeen at home. And the following weekend, we've got the Viaplay Cup final. There's only 3 more games in February. So some people would like to see us alternate with a cup competition and throw in Siegrist, maybe give O a start, maybe start Haksabanovic. By the way, Haksabanovic needs more minutes, but is he going to get it? Even people at O'Reilly as well. But because it's one game each weekend, is Ange going to just start his strongest 11? McGinty, what's your thoughts on that?
I think we saw the other game there the other week. Aye, he's going to start his strongest 11. He'll do a small rotation, but I don't think you're going to see wholesale changes of, Siegrist and Welsh starting, Ralston on the right, Iwata starting along with Turnbull, and then O and Mikey Johnson making a guest appearance or something. You're not going to see that level of changes. You might see O start instead of Kyogo, and you might see Siegrist start instead of Hart, but that would be the extent of it. Kobayashi might start minus those 2, but I can't see him doing wholesale changes. He said it from day one practically. He's in to win every competition, every game. Whether or not we do it is a whole other matter because, yeah, sure, we've won 4 in a row, treble-wise, quite recently, but it's exceedingly hard to do. It really is. As much as I slated the style of Rodgers' football earlier on in the podcast, no slight, he was absolutely fantastic. It worked. It just wasn't stylish. Do you take it every other week, every other season? Of course you would, but there's 2 ways to do it. It's hard. But back to the point. No wholesale changes. You're not going to see big things, but little things, aye.
And before I go back to you guys, kind of continuing on from my point, the boys on tour, he was saying the 80s was far better football and competition, mostly all Scottish players in the league, and you could tackle back then. And I think someone else was saying something similar to that. By the way, the closest that I've known for there to be more competition than just us and the Rotten Mob was when Hearts had George Burley, and what was it, like 10 games they went unbeaten. I think they might have been top of the league at that point. They ended up finishing second in the league, and I think it was Alex McLeish's Zevco who finished third. That was the closest I've ever experienced in my lifetime. A bit of diversity in the league. By the way, but the kind of the fun thing was whenever Hearts rolled into town, we played them at Parkhead. You fucking hated them because they were actually playing good football. They bought very, very wisely, and it was a new dimension. It was a new feeling, and you hated them. And your position was a little bit under threat. They faltered, of course, if they got rid of George Burley. But that was something new. Paddy, would you remember of those days? Those 10 weeks.
I remember it being kind of worrying because I think if it wasn't for a kind of Hearts capitulation, because I know they kind of imploded, I think they could have went on to win that league. They were that good. They had a really, really strong team. And do you know what? As much as Vladimir Romanov was a complete, absolute crackpot, I'm sure if he came in this day and age, his whole background would have been exposed. I'm no insinuating that he's a bad guy or he's a good guy. I really don't know, but I'm just making assumptions. But no, I think having investment like that coming into a team like Hearts is good for the league. Just to get back to your question, I think we need more competition in the league. Now, see, whenever the Rangers, God bless them, died, and it was only Celtic and the rest of the teams, I thought it was better for the other teams because they were giving each other more competition. We were told that teams would go out the game before the end of the season, and lo and behold, teams like that actually went on and were winning cup finals. So yes, I definitely think that we need stronger competition, but that's only going to come through a couple of avenues. It's because if we get more investment into Scottish football, more kind of change, I think we need to revamp the entire league, right? Because the way the league's set up is to cater to 4 games against us and 4 games against them. It's the Sky deal. It's all this. The split. Somebody mentioned it earlier on. Get shot at the split. Absolutely. It's the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in my life, that you can actually finish with more points than a team and still finish underneath them. It's shocking. But we definitely we need an entire revamp of Scottish football. I would say 100%.
There's a good Twitter account. I can't remember his handle, but he's basically like SPFL Reconstruction League or Scottish Football Reconstruction or something like that.
I've seen that.
And
I've seen that. It's good.
He's posed so many different variations of a 16-team league, 18-team, 20-team, 14-team, whatever it is. And every time you see him, you're like, yeah, do it. Yeah, that one looks good. That one looks great. It's like everything is just infinitely better than what we already have. And Paddy's 100% right. And it's what's holding Scottish football back for the last 25, 30 years is that everybody who's in Scottish football at a certain level are in it for themselves and they're in it for a quick buck. The league itself doesn't want to give up the Sky deal, especially after all the Setanta issues from 20 odd years ago. We shot ourselves in the foot with Sky and Setanta. We were scared to lose that money again, and we're scared to make any wholesale changes. We just want the easy route of a safe I saved 25 million at this stage. Nobody wants to reconstruct the league properly because all the lesser teams are too scared to lose the 2 Celtic games and the 2 Rangers games at their own ground. Sky don't want to rock the boat because they want those 4 Glasgow Derby games, if not 6 or 7, if they can get it. Nobody wants to change it because it's easy money as it is. And that's enough for them. Everybody's got a job, everybody's got the position, everybody's making money. Apart from the fans who are getting starved of any great entertainment and success in Scottish football. And that goes from grassroots right up to the international team and every club in between. But everybody's happy to stick where they are. Even go back to the weird ideas that we have of saying, 42 teams in our league set up for a population our size and a country our size. It's mental. But nobody wants to talk about the dark truth that some of them shouldn't be in the proper professional leagues, or they should merge, or the league should be just, one big league or 2 small leagues, and that should be it. Nobody wants to talk about it because, I'll go and take the Gary Melrose in a second. Nobody wants to do it because it involves somebody losing their job or losing their position. Nobody talks about it because they don't want to do the hard thing that actually benefits Scottish football as a whole. And if, yes, on the face of it, some people may look like they could lose a job or a hobby or whatever it is they're doing, but if they had a bit more belief in it, they wouldn't. You would merge with another club and create something bigger. But, it's easy said than done at times. Anyway, Gary Melrose, we need to extend the league to 16 if the current law aren't willing to extend their away ticket allocation. They want 2 home games against Celtic, but are happy with half-empty stadiums. Exactly. It's one of the things I hate. I think it was CalMac that done it against us. And CalMac a few years ago had an opportunity to play a game where I think they were still in a shout for European football or something. But they were happy to sell out 3 of their stands to Celtic fans because they knew Celtic fans were coming along to win the league that day. So they knew there was going to be a bit of a party thing from Celtic fans and they wanted the quick buck. They'd rather that than give the fans the enjoyment of trying to see them get into European football. It was mental. But that's the logic of them.
You would need to get a very, very charismatic salesman to sell that vision to the top flight clubs in Scotland. With the clubs we've got right now, they're not going to vote to make changes to have less games against Celtic and Sevco because they're going to be losing money from attendances. They're going to be losing money from Sky. If Sky find out that they're not going to be showing 4 Glasgow derbies and it's going to go down to 2, turkeys don't vote for Christmas for a reason because they're going to lose money. So it's going to need a more kind of aggressive hand in order to force these changes. And until that reform does happen, then we shouldn't hold our breath. I think that's the crux of the matter.
See, just to play devil's advocate though, obviously the Sky thing's slightly different. Could you not argue that they are doing that the now by cutting their allocation? I think cutting the allocations is probably the stupidest thing they could have done. I mean, you look at Livingston, where was it, 35 supporters they brought last week. St Johnstone, McDermott Park's empty, Rugby Park's empty. Why can they not give us 2-3 stones and just have their own support in the one stone? On the one hand, if I was supporting one of these teams and I was going every single week, then I could get the point of why that would be annoying. You're having to relocate because the big boys are coming to town. But I mean, how many people go every single week? Do you know what I mean? And then you've got to laugh when we get to Hampden and they want half of Hampden. So I sort of agree with what you're saying, but to an extent, I think they are already doing it with cutting the allocation. Obviously, cutting the allocation doesn't affect the Sky money. That's totally separate. But cutting the allocations, they are essentially cutting their nose to spite their face because it's not as if it's caused a massive upturn in results against us. Yeah. And their stadiums are still fucking empty. Probably with obviously the exception of Tynecastle.
Aye, cutting your nose off to spite your face. I do agree, mate. I do agree. Guys, one final question to wrap it up for tonight, and it's where we stand in the league. James, Paddy, McGinty, I'm guilty of it every week now, even more so now. And it's, is the league wrapped up? What camp are you in right now? Is it done and dusted? are you waiting until it's mathematically possible? But I just want to highlight to you guys that 13 games remaining in the league, 10 victories will guarantee that the title returns back to paradise. So where do we all stand? Are we, Paddy? I think you said you're in the camp of hold your wished until it's mathematically impossible or mathematically possible. Are you still in that camp?
I believe shut your hole was my response. No, listen, I get the positivity. I get the, how people's feeling about it. Things can happen. Strange things can happen, and until it's just there, you won't be hearing anything from me. So it's 9 points in it, as you say. There's how many games left?
13.
13 games, 9 points in it. No yet.
Well, James, you felt it here, 10 victories to ensure the title. That means that we even have the leisure of losing twice for a laugh against our closest rivals, and even another victory, even another defeat, just to make it tantalisingly close. However, where do you stand? Is it over?
I'm in the camp that it's over, but I'm no celebrating yet because it's no over. I can't see us losing it, but I'm no celebrating just yet.
It's not over until it is over.
It's not over. It's not over. It's not over.
Yeah.
McGinty, yourself?
13 games to go, 9 points in it, and a goal difference of 25 now over them, which is, as the old sayings go, is an extra point now. So I think we would have to lose a third of the games that we've got left. We've only lost one this season, guys. It's no happening. As James says, you never say it's done until mathematically and all that. You don't want to kind of get too premature with it. But it's impossible to see how we do, fold so badly that we actually lose this league. It's just a matter of ticking it off. I think the biggest thing for most is that we're all waiting for them to drop points first, and as soon as that happens, that they drop points and we win that same weekend, I think that's when everybody will just go tenfold with the celebrations.
I honestly think that's the worst thing that you can do, guys, is just preempt it. It's a jinx. Stop it.
Are you one of those guys? Are you one of those guys who actually touch wood?
Paddy, fly the flag.
I do every morning, Gavin. Every morning.
Aye. Right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. And guys, to the people in the comment section, thank you so much for your involvement tonight. Don't take this lightly, but we really appreciate your involvement in the Tuesday TikToks. You guys make it as much as we enjoy talking to each other. It wouldn't be anything without you guys. So thank you very much for that. We will be back hopefully for a post-match review on Saturday. It's the most awkward kickoff time of 5:30, but it is at Parkhead. So I'm sure some of us will be available to do a post-match review unless we've got other engagements, but we'll strive to do that. If you guys can join us, then it's a date. But guys, any parting comments before we finish up for tonight?
I'll ask a wee teaser and use if you're on on Saturday can the answer. I gave it to you a couple of weeks ago, but I actually get asked it again on Work the Day. There is one player who has scored 3 goals against Celtic for 3 different clubs in the Champions League. Who is that player?
Right, and we're keeping strum because we know the answer.
You know the answer. Aye, it was just I got asked that again on Work the Day, and I was like, aye.
I don't know.
Aye, you do.
Yeah.
No, he did. He did this one to his.
No. Say no more. Say no more. The question has been laid out.
Right. So this one's for the viewers and the viewers only then.
Yes,
right. So I genuinely don't remember that. I must have been pushed.
So it's one player who has scored 3 goals against Celtic for 3 different clubs in the Champions League. Who is that player?
I think Woodsy will get this one if he's still on.
Well, there you are. The gauntlet has been laid. Laid? Is that the word? Laid?
And I probably won't be here on Saturday to take the flak for the answer, so there we go.
Cool.
Oh, is it a cliffhanger? Is that your intention?
Yes, exactly. That's it.
Right, okay. That was a good movie, wasn't it? Sylvester Stallone. I like that one.
I'm just going to tell this one very, very quickly then before we wrap it up. So I had a mate phone me years and years ago. He says, listen, he says, I'm at a dinner party. He says, and they've started playing a guess the film type game. So, so he's messaging me and he's like, see, I don't know the answer to this. He says, it's that one with Sylvester Stallone. It's the one that hangs off the cliffs. I went, cliffhanger, and they went, that's it. That's genuine, by the way. But on that lovely note, I think we'll wrap up for the night.
Yeah.
And it is not laughing or caca. Just seen the comments there. That's me done. Sorry.
No, not caca, not caca. Caca! Anyway.
Plenty of cack for you two to clean up soon.
Aye. Right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, we'll be back in Saturday evening. But until then, have a good week. Catch you.
Hell.
See you.